We're going to be on radio now, I guess.
I'd like to call our meeting back to order. Thank you for joining us. Today is Monday, January 12th. We did meet starting at 4 o'clock with our board and our superintendent search consultant, so we've been at work for a little while. If you'd like to see that plan on how we are going to roll this search process out, it should be available online starting probably tomorrow or later tomorrow. So please take a look. We want to encourage everyone to participate. This is an important decision for us to make as we move forward, and we want as much participation as possible. So thank you in advance. And we will go ahead and start with superintendent's reports.
Yes, thank you. Tonight it's my pleasure to have some students joining us, and Associate Superintendent Trace Pickering will make the introductions.
Thank you, Dr. Benson. I'd like to introduce you to a group of students from Roosevelt and their principal and teacher and one of their adult partners. As you're aware, the Roosevelt option is an 8th grade program this year that's heavily project-based. About 80 students are enrolled in that program, and things have been going exceedingly well, actually beyond our expectations, I believe. And tonight we want to give you an opportunity to hear from the students about one of their projects. Tonight's project is the Internet Radio project that the group of students are working on. First of all, I'd like to introduce Autumn Pino, the principal at Roosevelt over there, and one of the 3 option teachers, Jessica Vasquez. And I'm going to ask Rama Muzo to come up. Rama brought the idea of an internet radio station to the students, and this group of students took that opportunity and ran with it. So Rama, I'll let you introduce the students in the program.
Thanks a lot for this opportunity. Actually, I cannot be more prouder than anything else than working with this student. And tonight, they will basically present the whole project from where they've started and where they're heading so far. So I'm going to introduce the whole group of radio station project committee.
Please give us your name.
My name is Maya Staley, and I'm the project manager in Writers Radio. Who are we? The Writers Radio is a group of students from the Roosevelt option that came together with the idea of Rama Muzo and took the idea of having an internet radio where we connect students to the community in a positive way.
Some of our goals or objectives. My name is Olivia Vandersanden, and I am the project manager. Some of our goals and objectives, mainly for this group, is to have that safe internet radio station, to have news that students can more comprehend, to have talk shows about things that go around in school, and the recent news that will be able to engage them and have them be able to learn it in a student way. We also are working with other option groups to expand this project to not only Roosevelt, but to the whole middle school and high school community.
How do we all work together? Well, because we have such a large team, it can be hard at times to work together. So the best way we figured out is if we break into our teams, which it could be technician, marketing, communications, research. And you do your small task that you are assigned, and once you have completed your small task, you come back together as a large group, and you put it together in the big picture. I would now like to introduce the team that makes this possible. Like I said, my name is Maya Staley. I'm the project manager. Olivia Vandersanden, which is our resource manager, which is my right-hand man. Quinn Caldwell, which is our visual designer and technical team. Tucker Klett, which could not be here tonight, but he is visual designer and technical team. Caitlin Simpson, communications and marketing. Colin Wheat, researcher and communications. Malik Watkins, he could not be here tonight, but he is marketing. Clayton Drury, technical, web design, and sports team. And additional members, because in the option we have sessions where you can pick new groups. We have added 3 new members, which are Calvin Hoffman, Olivia Prochnow and Cody Adkins, which those two could not be here tonight.
So for this project, we had to have set milestones to guide us along the way. So far for this, we have budgeted everything and figured out what we needed for to start this up, not only to start it up, but to also run it. So this is our budget document. This is what we have done to show this is what we need to start up our radio station. As you can see, it's $6,000. Our biggest bumps along the road is we currently do not have any funding for that $6,000. We have contacted various companies, but we have not gotten anything back. But that is the chart we have made to show what we need to start up our radio station.
And might I add that the milestones that we are going by are actually on our business plan that we as a group came together and decided on. A parent of a student in the Writers Radio actually works with websites and was able to help us create our homepage and our sports page. The Writers Radio website so this is where we will post all of our music, our interviews, our talk shows. On here it has the team, and then it has if you needed to contact us and a map of where we are located at the bottom.
This website will expand as we go.
And the next website was, because we want to expand out to other option groups, we have a sports team that will go to the games and actually record. So if a parent were to miss a game in the district and want the highlights of their child or family member, they could go here and click on the icon that they need and get to the sport. And right now, these are just placeholders until we have the actual games up and going.
No, it's not Roosevelt. Could be, it's not. The next thing we have to show you is a Writers Radio video. This is just to promote our company.
I'm Maya Staley.
And I'm Corbin Berg. In today's news, Roosevelt Middle School's first radio station has 7 new openings. These openings may include work in the sports area, interviewing, communications with segments. The characteristics they are looking for are hardworking, dedicated, outgoing, curious, determined, and people with a positive attitude.
Writers Radio is a group of students from the Roosevelt option that want to connect students to news in a way they will want to listen in a student-friendly format.
So far, the group has started contacting sponsors, creating their website, and started to figure out how to run the internet radio from scratch. And now to Tucker with the weather.
Rolling. Thank you, Maya and Corbin. Oh, as you can tell, I'm at the Roosevelt Beach. The future looks bright for the Writers Radio station. They may have a few cloudy days, but it takes a little rain to make a rainbow. I'm Tucker with the Writers Radio forecast. Back to you, Maya and Corbin.
Thanks, Tucker. In the future, the Writers Radio would like to get funding for equipment. Most of all, the students are looking forward to getting the station off the ground and in the air. I'm Maya.
Oh yeah, and I'm Corbin, and this has been a Writers Radio update. Stay classy, Roosevelt.
Now that video, you guys might not have a perfect understanding of what's going on, but for us, that makes perfect sense. We're still a group of students in middle school, but we want to make a difference. But if we don't have a little fun with making a difference, it's not going to impact those around us. And with having a radio station, you want something that students are going to want to listen to. They're not going to want to listen to something that just keeps talking and talking and talking. So we're going to make it a little bit more interesting for them. We would like to thank the Cedar Rapids Educational Board for sponsoring the option and making all of this possible. I would now like to call Rama Muzo back up for some closing words.
As you guys can see, it's been amazing working with these young people here. One of the opportunity that we had a parent that actually attended one of the classroom when we were actually working on the business plan and everything here. So, and he's here tonight. I would like to invite him so he can actually share to us the experience of everything actually so far, because he's been helping us build the website and all the technical aspect of it. Mr. Drewley.
Good evening, board. I'm Jeremy Drury. I'm also a parent of Clayton Drury here, one of the students. Where to start? I mean, you can see how awesome this is. I came to one of their board meetings about a month ago, and I was just blown away. I mean, if you remember in school, you probably did something like this, right? You get together a board or a proposal, you get together a budget, business plan, all that good stuff. But the thing we didn't do in school, including college, most of the time is we didn't implement it. And that's what they're trying to do. So to do this, first of all, is awesome, right? But to be able to implement it would just be great. As you can see, you know, I know from experience getting, you know, a 13-year-old kid in a shirt and tie is pretty hard. So, you know, they want your support, right? So, I would just say, I mean, they have a great team, and they're all. I guess I'll share this real quick. I came to this meeting with them, and they kind of just took it on their own, right? I think Rama was caught up with doing something, and instead of just sitting around like most students would do, I remember doing the same, just sitting around waiting for the teacher. Hey, Mr. Drury, why don't you sit down? We'll present to you, show you what we're trying to do. So, just that. It's just, it's a great opportunity for them. I'm really excited about it, and I ask that you guys support them. Thanks.
Again, right now, I mean, this being a project-based is actually entirely run by the students. They actually run the whole project. Even today, I'm sure some of your toughest questions you may have, they'll be more than happy to answer it, and they're ready for it.
Thank you so much. That is so awesome and exciting. Jeremy, thank you so much for participating as well. Comments or questions from the board? You got to give them a tough question. They can answer anything.
This is going to be an internet radio station, is that correct?
Correct.
Is it live now? Are we still, do you have a presence yet, or are you in the process of putting it together?
We're actually in the process of getting it together. We can't actually broadcast or do anything until we get the funds to get all of the equipment that's needed.
That's why I couldn't find you online. I was I was Googling, seeing if I could find it, and I didn't. So thank you. It's, again, a great project. It serves so many educational ways of reaching kids. I thank Trace, and I thank Roosevelt Middle School for your moving forward on this project.
John?
I was just going to say, have you pursued like advertising and those sorts of things for this, or in terms of raising the money, or how does that work?
Our marketing team has actually looked into it. So they're trying to figure out, start local and then expand from there. So we've started, but we're not quite up and running yet, so we haven't quite expanded that far yet.
Okay.
Any big surprises that you just never in a million years would have anticipated?
There's been a lot of them. Our group, we kind of started out with this idea, and we took it kind of as, okay, we're going to do this. But then we started thinking about it more, and we're like, well, we like this, and we like this, but we want to hear this too. So we conducted surveys among students and figured out what they want. And so we took this basic idea and turned it into something that none of us, I don't think, could have thought of at the beginning. And that was probably our biggest surprise.
And remind me, what grade are all of you in?
8th.
You're all in 8th grade. Well, I'm astounded by this, and you're absolutely right. We all did things like this in school, but we never went through the implementation process, and now you're finding how challenging that might be. But I can tell by the caliber of each and every one of you that you're going to be able to figure this out. And I'd be happy to write a check tomorrow to your program. I'm sure the rest of our board members might step up as well. I'll put that out as a challenge. Thank you so much for coming. Ron, thank you, all of you, for this. It couldn't happen, Trace, without that drive and initiative bringing. This is exactly the kind of programming we want to offer in our schools, and we hope that you like this and you're getting something out of it that will create a lifelong skill. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Yep.
Well, everyone associated with the Roosevelt Options Program should be pleased to hear this report tonight. Thank you, students, for being here. I have a couple of items. The first generation documentary will be screened for 7th graders from McKinley, Roosevelt, and Wilson Middle Schools on Thursday, January 15th. The film explores the issue of college access faced by first-generation and low-income students. The screening kicks off the district's participation in the second Gear Up program. Gear Up is a grant-funded project that provides support for to participating students starting in 7th grade and following them through 12th grade. We are pleased to be included in this first round of the program, which was conducted last spring, and look forward to participating in the second Gear Up. Community members are invited to a special showing of the first generation documentary on Thursday, January 15th at 6:30 p.m. at McKinley Middle School Auditorium. McKinley is located at 620 10th Street Southeast. Second this evening, the Washington High School swimming pool will be named the Hal Cresson and Jim Voss Pool this weekend. The pool is being named after 2 Washington men's swim coaches. Between them, they won 26 state championships. Cresson 11 and Voss 15. The naming ceremony at Washington will start Saturday, January 17th at 12:30 poolside. And you'll also get to see an investment that we made through Silo in improving the pool projects, the rehabbing the pools. And finally, I want to make everyone aware that the January 26th Board of Education meeting has been canceled. There are a number of meetings scheduled in Des Moines on that date addressing legislative matters, so we are going to cancel that regularly scheduled meeting. So the next meeting after tonight will be February 9th, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you. Any board reports? Yes, Gary?
Thanks, Mary. As the board legislative liaison, I attended an informative legislative update over the weekend. This one was sponsored by the Iowa State Education Association, and I left information with you. I think Dave later in the board agenda has some more information that will include some of this, and also the Iowa School Board Association and IASB. Just a few things from that I picked up over the weekend, and one is what a great lead-in by Trace in our Roosevelt presentation. The emphasis that we need 6% allowable growth in order to continue on our course of continuous improvement in what we're doing in education. The TLC money was earmarked specifically for teacher leadership. It it has restrictions and it doesn't help us with our day-to-day operations. So as we move forward into this legislation period, we need to very strongly, and I think the coalition of Iowa School Board Associations, ISEA, and the school administrators of Iowa are all firm in that request of 6%. We need to remember not to be distracted by, we've already seen some things about calendar issues. We may see some things about school center rankings that'll be coming out in a very short time. We need to make sure we don't lose our focus on 6% and continue to work towards it. Also heard on the national level that will probably be a reauthorization bill of, first of all, it will not be NCLB. We'll be going back to the Elementary Secondary Education Act, that there's a strong possibility that that will go through Congress. Whether or not what happens to it after that, whether or not the president will sign it or not, left to be seen. Of course, the details will be in the actual writing of that. But the early indications are that the use of testing is going to be a strong area that will be looked at. One of the things I heard was rather than annual testing, it might be looking at a comprehensive test of elementary students, a comprehensive test of middle school, and then a comprehensive test of the secondary students. So stay tuned as we move through the spring with that process. As we move in, we look at the 6% allowable growth, we need to remember that there is still a $700 million surplus in the state budget, and that the economy is still showing growth. So possibility of doing 6% can be accomplished. So as Dave said, state lobbying, ISAB lobbying on the 26th, and I believe there will be some local educators that'll be doing some lobbying the following day on the 27th on the Hill. So I'm going to be involved with both of those activities.
Thank you, Gary. John?
I was just going to say that Monday the 19th is Martin Luther King Day, and we do not have school, as I understand it, this year, right, on that day. So it gives, I think, everybody an opportunity, especially with all the things going on in our country today and locally, to really recognize that and give back to our community. I know a lot of us involved with the school district and the board will be at a celebration for a lunch that will recognize some of our students who represent Dr. King's values and bringing people together at that luncheon. So, again, I just hope that everybody celebrates that and takes advantage of that day.
And the Cedar Rapids Gazette did a wonderful article on the students, highlighting them, so would call that to everybody's attention.
Thank you, John. Appreciate the reminder. Any other reports from the board? Yes, Alan.
We got a shout out today at Downtown Rotary. It was very nice. Beth Malicki spoke about the Kids on Course, both at Harrison and Van Buren and Grant, and said it's been a wonderful time working with the school district, and they are seeing progress, and we know that's something that's greatly needed in our community, so it was very nice to hear from her.
Yes, it was. Any others? Okay. Next, I don't have anyone that would like to address the board. I'm sorry, Larry? Yeah. I'm sorry? Yeah, I'd like to address. Okay. So, keep your comments to 5 minutes, and please state your name and address for the record.
Sure. Lawrence Winklowski, 423 Former Railroad Northeast. Despite some difficulties, I did my best trying to find the facts about the rec center agreement. Last year before the PEPL vote, at almost every meeting, agenda items that would benefit from the approval of the PEPL were pointed out. If this recreation center project was on the PEPL list, I would not have publicly supported the PEPL vote, and I truly believe the referendum would not have passed. After it passed by less than 0.5%, I heard from the board how important transparency was when it came to spending the PEPAL funds. And on November 10th, the school board approved the funding for the projects for the 15-16 school year. So, not as a public hearing and without any advance notification prior to the agenda being posted, a $500,000 PEPAL expenditure shows up sort of hidden near the end of the agenda to give money away to the city for the recreation center, which I believe is a result of FEMA and state historic preservation requirements. First, if the board does pass this agreement tonight, please make sure that the years in which the final 4 January payments are spelled out. For example, each January in the years 2017 through 2020. However, I believe this agreement should either be tabled or turned down. Tabled to make sure the community knows that the administration wants to siphon PEPAL funds which were sold to us as a requirement for basic repairs, buses, and safeties, not to help cover up unfortunate costs the city is now incurring. I acknowledge that there are potential benefits to Harrison with the project. However, the city gave tax breaks to businesses all the time so that they need to find the internal funding to fund this project. I don't blame the board for the agreement for the city to use the land. I blame the people who negotiated the agreement without a design approval clause. We can't afford having people who negotiate poor agreements and who think we should be giving away our future. Bringing this agreement to the school is a total fiasco, financial mismanagement. What happened to hope for the best and plan for the worst? This agreement is pray for a miracle with no planning at all. I am tired of the government robbing it forward and paying for planning for a nanosecond. We are not a cash-rich school district. The bleeding must stop. To approve this agreement in the first of 10 years of PEPAL spending would destroy the remaining relationship between the school board and the community. The relationships needs to be strengthened, not destroyed. It is my understanding that if the agreement is not approved, the project will go forward and the city will have to find other sources for the funding. The school district has less income sources than the city does. I believe we did our part with the land agreement, but that is where it must stop. One other thing I want to say is that in the future, to improve transparency and to respect the time of everyone who attends these meetings, can we have these the presentations associated with agenda items before we have public comment? I'm not saying you have to ask the questions, but I'd just like to have all the facts that these people are saying. I think other people would too, because sometimes I'm saying something that ain't totally true, and I don't like doing that. So thank you.
Thank you. Tanya Johnson.
Tanya Johnson, 3816 Riverside Drive. As a representative here from the teachers, I want to let you know about some great things that teachers are doing in our district. We had several teachers who renewed and received their national board certification in December. So it was a great gift to them. And I was not able to tell you about those in December, so I want to tell you about them now. Ian Clemon and Denise Melchert were both national board certified renewals. And then we had 11 more teachers who received their national board certification. That was Elizabeth Altmeyer, Ashley Corver, Jessica Egley, Diana Gears, Amy Harger, Bradley Horton and Jennifer Horton, Gretchen Lawler, Tiffany Orr, Hallie Sanford Ryan, and Molly Sirfranco. And so each of these teachers have gone through the rigorous process of the national board certification and received that. Along with that, I just want to send my appreciation to our school board and to our district for showing a willingness to support the national board process. I myself am nationally board certified, so I can tell you that it is a really, really tough thing. It took me 2 times to pass, and quite often may take some people up to 3 times because it is a very rigorous reflective process. But these teachers are obviously fantastic teachers and will show that in their teacher effectiveness and their student achievement in their classrooms. I also want to let you know that we had 2 educators who were nominees for the ISEA Excellence in Education Award, and that was Candy Bakeris, a paraeducator at Roosevelt, and Randy Atkinson, a teacher at Taft Middle School. And they were both invited to attend the dinner in Des Moines for when they announced the actual award winner. And they were nominated by either colleagues or by parents or students. I know Candy was nominated by a student. So those are also great opportunities to let our teachers know what a wonderful job they're doing. So thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. Next is our consent agenda, and I'd like to ask for a motion and a second to approve.
So moved.
Okay, discussion or any items? Second?
So I just wanted to say, I think it's important for the public to know that the wireless network upgrade is coming and that we're using some federal dollars to help support that. It's critical with having children in the district. As I see it, they're using this technology every day, and the bandwidth and the amount of time that they're using it just keeps increasing in the classroom. So I'm really happy that this school district is spending some money on that. And then we talked about PEPL, and we like to point these things out, but improvements in door and windows at both Johnson and at Hiawatha. Yeah, I visited both of those schools, and HVAC and drafty windows and single pane windows are really an issue. So again, I think when we made a promise to the school, to the community, that we would use these PEPL things to upgrade our facilities, this is an example of what we're using that money for, and I'm happy that we're doing it.
Thank you, John. I mistakenly took you as seconding the motion that
Sorry.
Alan made. Do you want to second
I will
that
second
motion?
it, yes.
Okay.
And those were my comments.
I appreciate those
All right.
comments. Any other comments or an item pulled for separate consideration? Seeing none, this is a roll call action due to the personnel report.
Director Laverty?
Aye.
Director Witt?
Aye.
Director Anhalt?
Aye.
Director Westerkamp?
Aye.
President Meisterling?
Aye, thank you. Next, I'll turn this over to Laurel Day and the Cedar Rapids Community School Foundation.
Thank you. Tonight we have with us Jen Newman, who serves as the chairperson of our foundation, and Karen Swanson, who is the executive director, here to provide the annual update to the board.
Good evening. Do I state my name and address?
No.
Okay, great. All right. I wanted to take a moment, and I think everybody should have received this in the mail or you've seen it in some form. I'm sure you've all memorized it, read it, know you're experts on the foundation. I pay special note to the number on the front. We hit 30 years. And I'm really just, as I pull out a couple things from the annual report, one of them is that we began in 1984 and we had an operating budget of $7,390. This year, we have an operating budget of $240,000, and we're managing about $710,000 in assets. That's a big jump. And when we hit that million mark, I will come pour sparkling grape juice for everybody here. I'm really proud of those numbers. I'm really proud of the work the foundation has done, most of which was before my time even on the foundation. And one of those things that really comes to mind when I think about what I'm so very proud of the foundation for is if you take a look at the 2014 senior scholarships, this is a program that has been really aided not only by Karen's professional abilities, but also that of Rob Wrights, who's been with Bob Wrights, I'm sorry, who's been with the foundation for 15 years? 15 years now. He really, he does the work of a paid staff member for us, willingly, with a smile, and with just a wonderful personality. So if you know Bob, you should mention to him that he's just an invaluable asset to us. But what I like about this is you look at it, and there are 45 scholarships listed here that were given. We manage about 36 senior scholarships. So, you know, some of them serve more than one student. Some of them are very specialized. They're for a student at a particular school, a student with a disability. It's just a really amazing thing. And the other thing about the foundation is we really have a lot of different programs. When we were talking about that, when the Roosevelt kids were up here talking, and Karen and I kind of looked at each other when they said they need funding, we kind of sideways glanced at each other like, really?
I glanced at you too.
Did you? I caught that. So, ask the foundation for money. So many times, I mean, we have so many different programs and things we do. I often have to rely on Karen, and I said, okay, what should they apply for? So, Trace, take note that it should be the student project grant that's coming up available in the spring, and that they should definitely apply for that. And when the district is doing exciting things, it makes our job a little bit easier and a little bit more exciting too. So to that end, I just want to close with a quick story of something that happened in the past year. We sent out a e-newsletter to our alumni, and we launched a new program, just sort of thought we'd see how it goes. And that is that anybody can honor any educator or district employee at any amount. You don't have to endow a fund through this program. Zip. I mean, nothing came in. All right, we'll tweak it. We're going to look at that. We're going to measure it. We're going to figure out how we can make this better. We've already got some ideas. And then the phone rang. And somebody saw that, and they contacted their banker. And their banker contacted Karen and said that he had a donor who wanted to do something that would help impact students in the classroom, and wanted to know what that would look like. And did we have a program? Did we have a program? So Karen talked to him specifically about the Student Enrichment Grant Program, and he asked what it would take to fund that program completely. So she told him it's $10,000 budget item. I always have to look to Karen for the numbers. And he said, well, would that do it? That would do it. So he funded that program. It's already funded through the year, but I mean, think what we'll be able to do. And he left the door open for further conversations and for endowing that fund. So everything we do at the foundation to get the word out and to tell the stories and to support the amazing work that's doing in the district comes back to the teachers and the students in the district eventually. And so I just thought it was a really neat story, and I'm just really proud of the work we've done. So I want to thank you for inviting me here tonight, and 2015 is going to be a great year for the foundation too. Thanks.
Jen, Karen, thank you so much. Are there any comments or questions from the board? We appreciate your work. I know when I came to the district, late 90s, I think, foundation didn't have a whole lot of money in it. It kind of languished for many years. So to see this pick up and thrive is just really exciting, and how our students benefit is just tremendous. So thank you for your continued efforts and your work. And we love our alumni spotlights, so keep sending us names, and we'll get them highlighted as well. Thanks.
Thank you for your support as well.
Yes.
A comment and a question, and I know, just ask where we're at with.
Oh, here it comes. I know. Gary, that one lies squarely on my shoulders, and I have not designed it yet. I need to do it, but my goal is to get that done and printed in the first quarter here.
Yeah.
So.
And just so that it becomes public.
What was
the question is that the Memorial Center here, recognition.
We'd like to have a
plaza,
printed piece that can be used to promote that.
Would it at some point have the ability to be able to, people would be able to, instead of, the idea was instead of we see memorial bricks and so on, which are difficult to be able to put a presence on that recognition of center, the video, recognizing a staff member maybe that had passed away, or someone that has just made a great contribution to the district. And so I just, it's something that I have an interest in, and I will continue to bug, but I understand, I appreciate all the work that you're doing, and it's marvelous work. And so when you get a chance, I know you'll get around to it. So
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next Mary Ellen and Tanya to talk about the teacher leadership update. I'm just Mary Ellen.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to reintroduce to the board members this evening Stephen Probert, who is our Teacher Leadership System Facilitator. And while you've seen Stephen's face before, he is one of our one of almost 500 teacher leaders in the Cedar Rapids School District as we implement the Teacher Leadership System for this school year. Stephen is responsible for working with teacher leaders and administration, and one of the things that he's responsible for is working to make sure that we are looking at the system and we're saying, is this working? And the evaluation of that. As you may recall, when I presented the 10 different parts to the application that we've submitted to the state last year, evaluation of the system is one part of the teacher leadership application, and then evaluation of the teacher leaders as well is another part. Stephen's going to be speaking to you this evening about the evaluation of the system and the work that he's been engaged in and leading in that area. And in a perfect world, Stephen would be accompanied by Barbara Clemente, who is working with us. She's with the National Education Association Foundation. That's a mouthful. And Tanya Johnson, our CAREA president, had the good insight to saw an opportunity for some funding that was available through the association and the foundation for NEA, and said, hey, I think we could partner on this. It has been a wonderful partnership with the exception of air travel. Barbara has visited us several times, tried to visit us several times. Unfortunately, she comes to us from Colorado, and getting out of Denver has been a challenge. So she's going to be working with us tomorrow via some wonderful technology, but we had hoped she would be here with Stephen this evening to share information, but I'm sure Stephen will do a great job.
Thank you, Dr. Benson, President Meistling, members of the board, members of the cabinet, and guests. It is my pleasure to update you on the ongoing success of the teacher leadership system in the Cedar Rapids Community School District and its role in the promotion of student learning and development. Research tells us that when teachers effectively collaborate, the quality of instruction increases and it positively affects student learning. Now, because of the teacher leadership system, this increased collaboration has come in three basic forms: intensive coaching in all 31 buildings, as well as targeted professional learning, curriculum and instruction support, and lastly, purposeful building-based support. Now, when I presented in October, Vice President Witt asked, how will we know if this is working? And my answer was, well, we're going to Washington, D.C. on Wednesday to find out. And if you, the people that are on this slide served as a teacher leadership system advisory committee, some even traveling to Washington, D.C., to start the work of devising a system for program evaluation. You'll notice that we have teacher leaders on this committee, administration, and association representation. Now, beginning in November, this group has spent 10 hours thoughtfully moving forward on this topic. And tomorrow marks the fourth of our 6 sessions. It was actually got to be a little bit of a comedy as Barb would call me today, and she said, they canceled my flight, but I'm going to drive to Denver and try to get the connecting flight. I was selected for a random TSA search, and I missed my flight. I'll do standby. I missed standby by one person, so she is going to link in tomorrow. But she sends her regards and asked me to convey her disappointment that she couldn't be here in person. And she expressed her excitement over the collaborative work that is occurring in the teacher leadership system and the systemic efforts we are making to benefit students. Now, the byproducts, or the 2 work products that have been developed due to this collaboration have been twofold. The first of which is a system for individual teacher leader review. And we wanted to make sure that we had a process that was growth oriented, authentic, manageable, and in compliance with state standards. What we came up with was a system that included growth on the continuum of development. Now, that's a reflection tool that our district has devised for teacher leaders specifically, as well as positive supervisor feedback and teacher feedback. The second work product has to do with evaluating the system. And this really gets at the heart what I believe I was asked the last time. It starts with student achievement, because that's what this is all about, student learning. It is the ultimate goal of the teacher leadership system. And student learning, of course, is impacted by quality of instruction. And that instruction is impacted by the collaboration that teacher leadership provides. And teacher leadership is impacted by the quality of professional learning that we provide for them and the support that we provide for them. And then lastly, the equitable hiring ensures that we have the right players at the table. So how do you measure all that? There's a lot of different things there. And I think the answer maybe is just one bite at a time. So I will show you a few bites, and thank you for your time. The first bite is that we have different HR reports that we've articulated in the grant that will give us some information on the hiring process, but we're also going to ask teachers, what did they think about the hiring process? And it's in orange because that's what we're working on tomorrow. That's what we're in the midst of right now. And our goal is to have that survey rolled out on March 18th of this year. It's an early dismissal, and we are hoping that we can carve out some time to have a high response rate. The next layer in that is that we have, all of our professional learning sessions has a feedback component, and we are compiling that data. That information will be very useful for us as we move forward. But we're also going to be asking our teacher leaders, did we give you what you needed? And that's what the teacher leader survey is going to speak to. Excuse me. Next layer, that continuum of development that I measured before, we're going to aggregate that data and hopefully learn some things about what we need to provide for our teacher leaders. And again, some of our teacher survey questions and our teacher leadership survey questions will speak to that as well. As far as instruction, we have focus groups that are written in the grant that we are going to work with. And again, a teacher survey component as well. And of course, the student achievement piece will ultimately be measured by district and state assessments. So this is our plan that we are working on. I believe that this 5-tiered plan sets us on a trajectory to properly evaluate the effectiveness of the system in a timely manner. I want to thank the board and administration for your support of this work. And like I said the last time I was here, I'm working with some really great people, and it's an honor to work with them. And thank you for that opportunity. Along with the superintendent's cabinet, I'll welcome any questions you may have.
Hey, Stephen. Questions or comments? Alan?
I got one. The survey, the teacher leadership survey, is that similar to what we did before with the PLC survey we did in the last 12 months? Is there any overlap there that we can use from one survey to the other, or is this something new?
The answer, I think the answer to your question is no. It is not the same thing as the PLC survey. The PLC survey is about the implementation of professional learning communities in our school district. This is about the implementation of a system to support professional learning communities in our district. That's kind of the way that I see that.
Sure.
This is much more specifically oriented to the teacher leadership roles.
Mm-hmm.
Those job descriptions, where those positions there's basically, it kind of is like PLCs in that there's 4 questions with PLC. Well, there is with this too. Did we implement the system like we said we were going to? Are we seeing the success with instruction that we thought we would? And are we seeing the success with student learning that we thought we would? So there's questions that will be answered by it, but they are 2 separate things.
And who gets the survey this time around? Everybody? All the teachers?
Teachers. At this point, we're deciding whether we want to do a random selection of teachers or all teachers, because there are several positions to evaluate, and I'm going to let Stephen speak to that a little bit. So
Yeah.
we have how many different surveys?
Yeah, we have a total of 13 different surveys at this point in time. One is a very large survey that has about 5 or 6 components speaking to 5 or 6 building-based positions, and that's what we're calling our teacher survey. The other 12 are teacher leader surveys, meaning that they're going to go out to teacher leaders and not teachers themselves. So for instance, there's a group of teacher leaders that I work with, and so there's a survey about my role that will go out to that group. And there is there is a group that works with Tanya, and that will go to that group. So there's about 12 different teacher leader surveys that go out to specific teacher leader groups, and one large one that goes out to teachers.
How do we know, this is a question I had last time we had this discussion, was we had about 33% of the teachers respond to the PLC survey. What's our benchmark? I mean, is it 100%, you know, they just told, look, everybody who gets a survey has to do it, or is it just going to be one of these things where people have the choice to do the survey or not do the survey if you end up doing them all?
Well, you know, ultimately you can't sit with each teacher and make sure that they fill out that survey, but we're doing our best to carve out an opportunity for them by creating a place during the professional development time, and we are asking our administrators to follow through on that, talk to them in terms of it not just being an option, but this is an opportunity to give feedback to the system.
I think with the PLC survey, we had a 2-week window of time for teachers to respond. And in this situation, we've identified a date on which we will provide time for them. So I anticipate that we'll get a better response.
Keith?
I'd just like to comment that, you know, the commitment of the school board and our long-range plans, we work together there too. And at the meeting in DC, you saw where school districts didn't have these relationships. And, you know, as we look at a new superintendent, it's going to take our commitment as board, our new superintendent, everything, to say, we're on this path, we want to stay on the path. And that came out as a very, very important element, that the consistency is so important to the success.
I agree. Any
So
other
I'll be working for that, and I know everybody else will too.
Good, good. Gary?
On this triangle, on the base, the equitable hiring process, is that for the teacher leadership positions? Is that specifically for that?
Yes. Basically, it's going to speak to the process that occurred last spring, in the spring of 2014, and we can pull the reports for what happened at that time. There are some reports that I'll give you an example. There was a report, you know, or one of the questions we wanted to answer is, did we retain teachers, especially new teachers? That's not a question we can answer until the end of this year, but they either are pulled or we're waiting for the right time to pull them. So that's a big piece of that. That's why we're also sending out a teacher survey, because sometimes you don't learn everything by numbers. Sometimes you need to ask questions about how people perceive the process and how it went, whether it's fair. And we want to make sure we give them an opportunity to speak to that too.
Was that an online, initially an online process for applying for those positions?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it was when I did it.
Okay.
So.
You know, I'm laughing a little bit because Stephen was on the other end of that at that point in time, and actually we worked collaboratively with the Teachers Association on that hiring process. It had to be a rigorous selection process. It was a more complex process than we use for our current teaching positions. There was a screening tool, there was tasks that were completed, and then there was an interview process.
I'd be interested in seeing that results, because I've gotten some individual comments from some people that don't look very favorably on the online hiring. Frustrated on applying for some positions and some substitute positions, some other things too. So sometimes it's a very small sampling from what I hear, so be interested in a broader perspective.
As will I.
Okay. Thank you for your report and your time and your energy and efforts in this program. It's a first year out. We need it to be successful, not only for our students, but for the integrity of the program with the state and the funding that's associated. And I'm also with Alan on that survey stuff. The 13 surveys are a lot. I don't know how many questions are in your surveys, but we are always disappointed at the number of people who respond, because we need those surveys to inform us as we move forward. So whatever you can do to encourage that response rate, we would appreciate.
And one thing I didn't portray very well, if I may, nobody's going to be getting 13 surveys out of this. You know, it might be certain overlaps in some of the distribution lists.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah, okay. All right. I was thinking, oh, that is scary.
Again, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, next I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Benson to talk about the rec center.
At this time, we have officials from the city, Swen, which would come up and introduce yourself. Going to take us through a presentation. There's been some public meetings held on the rec center. This will be an update to the board, and then I have a recommendation.
Thank you, Dr. Benson, President Meisterling, members of the board. Good evening. Sven Leff, Parks and Recreation Director for the City of Cedar Rapids. And also with me, Jim Novak from Novak Design Group, who's the architect for the project, is here. Should I need help with some of the questions or design technical stuff. The Northwest Recreation Center, you can imagine, is a project quite long in the making, since it's really designed to replace the Time Check Recreation Center that was ruined in the 2008 flood. Now, that flood, as you know, really ruined not just that center, but an entire neighborhood. And with the city's and the school district's commitment to helping rebuild the Northwest Harrison area, in about, I think it was March of 13, the location was approved by the City Council to bring the recreation center there onto the property near Harrison Elementary School. It wasn't until June of 14 when we actually got approval from FEMA for that site, working with them, answering questions, their research, and whatever their own processes are. It took quite a long time. But in July, I think I said June, I meant July of the summer, they said, you know what, we have some, we can approve it, but we have some stipulations for you as well. Because what they really viewed, and quite particularly, it was FEMA's Environmental Historic and Preservation Office, as well as the state's Historic and Preservation Office, that was really concerned with protecting and preserving the architecture that Harrison is. And it's a beautiful school. I think the historian's sort of research turned into a 1930s Tudor style is how it was described. A beautiful facility. And so when they came to us, they said, we can do this, but we have some stipulations for you. You got to move it back a little bit so it doesn't obstruct the school. We have to have exterior materials and appearance that's a great complement to the school, not a detraction. So, you know, no neo-art sort of structure going in there as a distraction. So we've worked for quite a while on what that meant, valuing what that added up to be, what those new requirements were to make it possible. And I believe it was at the second meeting in October that the City Council approved additional lost funds to help achieve the city's portion of the match that goes with FEMA's money. So it's roughly a 50-50 split right now in the project budget. So in doing all of that and coming with the cost estimates, we've been working with Novak well, probably since the original submission more than 2 years ago, and early on working with school district staff, Steve Graham, Rob Kleinsmith, Principal Amy Russell, as to how will it really work and function with the center. The information I have, or the presentation I have for you today, I've got, so it's kind of a site plan, floor plans. We can talk about the concerns that we've heard, the initial things that we even as staff are working on. The 28E is near final in the draft. That'll be coming to you soon. I can speak to some of those terms today, things we're thinking about. And then certainly answer other questions that we have, but that's kind of what I brought forward to today. So as a site goes, where the building would be placed is north of Harrison Elementary School. I don't know if there's a pointer. That ain't it. Pardon me. To try to describe things, the school building is down here. This is the northern edge of the school building. And to the north of the school, where a parking lot currently is where M Avenue comes in and dead ends. The building is only about 14,000 square feet. It's a relatively small recreation center. It's about the size of the African American Museum right now. By comparison, some people think, hey, massive rec center, we're thinking of the Helen G. YMCA downtown. That's actually 4 times its size. This is much smaller in scale in respects to a neighborhood center or a community center. But it also lends a lot of neat additions that we as a Parks and Recreation Department lost with the time check facility being ruined, that we lack in another part of our system, and actually are also an enhancement to the students there at Harrison and the neighborhood around it that would use it evenings, weekends, holidays, the out-of-school times. The biggest feature is a full-size gymnasium. We actually lacked having a gymnasium in our Parks and Recreation system. It happens to have, I'm actually going to advance it one slide because I think this next one's a little better. The short-way cross courts, it allows for 2 cross courts, and there's a dividing wall or curtain that will come down. And what it will come down, it's not a simple loose one you can look around. We intentionally, from the beginning, I should actually backtrack at one step. The very first moment, the first thought that crossed my mind, and the first thing we discussed as a staff, right after the city council said, here's where we want to take and propose this rec center, is that student safety is our top priority. In our own minds, I'm a parent of students. Most of the recreation staff are parents or grandparents of students. We understand that, we get that, and certainly that has been expressed by the principal and other school staff members. That was expressed last Thursday night when we met, and members of Harrison's PTO was wondering about the security and the safety. So in respect to a gymnasium, what we've designed here is actually a drop-down curtain that's stuck probably 6 to 8 inches into a track in the wall. You know, picture the cinder block or an aluminum track that does not allow that curtain to be peered around or for a child to escape or someone to get in there. Instead, it's alarmed emergency doors or so forth, so that we actually have a physical and visual separation of the students in that case. And then just 1/2 of the gymnasium is larger than the gymnasium that Harrison School currently has to offer. So the PE classes have more space that can, and with modern equipment, that might be for a safer or a better PE experience while they're using that space. And they're not necessarily limited to half the gym. Depends on how the programmed use throughout the day really starts to evolve. One of the challenges that we've committed to working with is, since the schools use PE teachers on a rotation, it's not easy for us to say Harrison students get Monday and Wednesday from 9 to noon for PE. Instead, there's some evolution and creativity that we have committed to working with the school staff to make sure that areas of the school can be used for the students and bring a better experience to them. A couple of the other things with respect to physical design and student safety is these doors over here opposite the north entrance to Harrison Elementary School. They're about 25 feet apart. Through secure and alarm double doors and security cameras in the hallway, students can enter, have bathroom services, and access one or both sides of the gymnasium without ever coming into contact with people who might be receiving services in another side of the building. And if you think of what daytime activities might happen, picture seniors coffee and cards or a senior dance. And this is the second feature, is a large multi-purpose room that's dividable into, it holds about 120 people, or 2 smaller activity rooms with a kitchen that could serve some areas, plus some supervision, offices, bathrooms, and stuff. I mean, that's about as simple as the building and the layout gets. But by intentionally designing areas where a senior population or a veterans population or a disabled wheelchair basketball activity might be going on in the building at the same time, by using a different entrance and physically being separated and having security and training and policies in place, the students will be able to also use areas that are set aside for them and arranged and scheduled. Outside of the school day, you might find there's an evening assembly that's going on in the schools, and with enough planning, our staff working with school staff can open up the whole gym, open up the whole building, and working together in partnership to make this a new addition and asset for what's going on at the Harrison community. But outside of those days, evenings, weekends, holidays, summer vacation, you name it, even a snow day, it might be the type of thing where we've got prearranged services where families can find some help, kids can have some activities, a drop-in thing can happen, and those working families all of a sudden have some help and they can get off to, in the event of a snow day. This was a conversation with the PTO, could really move forward into some exciting uses. Some of the other things, if you can envision as a community center goes, the main entrance is from the north off of M Avenue. In the central hallway where there's hangout and concessions also has some game spaces. There's a centralized supervision of kind of like a member services type desk where at least people can be taken care of, and that person's going to end up being at least 21 years old in all likelihood, to make sure things are covered. And then the structure of just the activities in there, instead of being loosey-goosey free play kind of stuff, how much can we use? We know the facilities that are here are in demand, and we lack them for providing services in the department. Here's another, this is actually the first rendering of the gymnasium. It's actually large enough for 3 volleyball courts. And by making it so large, it lends more versatility for different forms of use, and that's kind of what we wanted to bring in such a piece or facility. Now, some of the rendering things with relation to what the stipulations that FEMA came back with, we have some renderings here. It doesn't, and if I butcher this, Jim, please help me out. It doesn't have to be the exact same materials, the exact same windows. Certainly, you can imagine building a rec center with the materials from the 1930s and those dimensions and stuff may prove to be challenging or difficult and expensive. But it needs to not detract from the look. Originally, the thought was sort of the gable would be single story and this thing would shoot up. It almost looked like Gothic in a church by the time we got to the top of the gymnasium and built from above there. As we've revised it, what we have is the larger flat roof. That's the gymnasium off the back, and to the front, this is a front view from 11th Street and a front entrance view from M Avenue. We actually are able to copy some of those features so it complements the school. Now this one's actually, if you're floating above the water detention basin to the north, there's your perspective. That's square facing the school, and it hides a lot of it, but not all of it. But when you're more on the corner, street corner, this would be M Avenue, you can see how much of the school is still exposed. The FEMA, in fact, they had told us back it up 35 feet so there's some perspective. And we can see the beautiful building, and we can see the front doors. You got black trimmed windows, black trimmed windows. We've got, crisscrosses on them, and likewise. We've got gables. We've got same red color materials and other highlights with more of a tan or so forth. These are some of the renderings that I think that we had provided for it. So the recreation center, one of the important things also, and we believe at this time, and have no reason to believe it's wrong, is that being school property, the center is subject to all of the school laws related to who is legally able to be on property. You know how drugs, guns, sex offenders, stuff like that, not able to change just because the city's operating a facility. This is a school property building, and we believe that's still running true in this case. And we already do a lot of the policies that are background checks on our own employees. Nor do we, for our own employee safety, want to leave a single person in the building supervising it alone. So we'll probably at least have a pair of adult supervising activities in there at any one time. And I did mention a security system with cameras and alarms and so forth. Those are important to us. I know the item in front of you here is a proposed memo of agreement with the school district and the city. And I know, I think that's kind of where I turn it back to you, unless there's questions about the design or our planned and anticipated use. The last thing I'll throw out is the 2080 is, as I said, is nearly finished. Some of the final details we're working on really pertain to site plan, and as that's refined, we can wrap it up. For example, snow removal of the parking lots, snow removal of the sidewalks, mowing, and so forth. What the city gets out of the partnership is a wonderful location to serve this neighborhood. The grounds of the school serve like a park outside of school operating hours, and yet the school district and the students are able to have a sort of a community center and new facilities that complement what Harrison currently does not provide. So with that, I'll stop talking for once. I'll pass it to you folks and field any questions you've got.
Sven, thank you for that report. That was perfect. I know you had an open house at Harrison on Thursday. Attended a groundbreaking some months back as well. That was very well attended. It's a project that's being very well received in that neighborhood. Questions or comments from the board? Yes.
This is a great project. I like the design. This is the way I think of the future with tight funding. It's not just school districts that are tight. A lot of things are under constraints within budgets across public entities, and this is a great partnership to benefit the students and the community. So hats off to everybody that was involved with that type of work on it. So
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Any other comments?
Is this going to be a brick material then? On the,
Jim, I'm going to have you go ahead and go to the podium. That way people at home can hear you as it's recorded.
Yes, it is. It's going to be brick. Part of it goes back to the original Time Check building, which was really a concrete block box. And when you're dealing with FEMA is basically going to give you the money to replace what was damaged. So in fact, FEMA was going to give us the money to replace a concrete block box. Obviously, when we came to this site, it had to respect the existing building that was there, and that was an agreement with FEMA. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to build a building that's going to be a much smaller scale than the existing building, so the school will always be prominent over this building, but pick up a few of the features of the existing school so that it will complement the school but never compete with the school. So in historic preservation work, you don't want to copy the building, but what you want to do is that you want the scale of the building to work with the building. And in fact, it is brick, and what we're hoping to do is find a brick that matches the brick on that building.
Great.
I know in the past we've had some very effective agreements with the Recreation Department. Viola Gibson is one that I know that has worked out very well. And I see this as, again, a bigger expansion of that, making it a community project. When you mentioned it has to follow the regulations, I assume then it's a smoke-free building?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do we have smoke-free grounds?
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir, that's correct. And in fact, the Viola Gibson 2080 was the basis for the one we've crafted here. That was our starting point.
Thank you for joining us this evening and providing this information. Jim, thank you for being here as well. I'll turn this over to Dave.
Thank you. When you look at and have issues around enhanced projects, there are additional costs. The city came to us and asked us to consider participating, and we are here tonight as kind of accumulation of that process. I believe that has been the intent of the parties. There have been some legitimate issues brought around PEPL. I would tell you that funding for capital improvements is somewhat fluid based upon assessed evaluation, and in the case of silo funds, sales tax and general health of the economy. And we are always conservative when we make these estimates going forward for a number of years that allow us a certain amount of flexibility should unforeseen circumstances come up when we were designing it, or construction costs, for example, escalate. Alan, you know, the inflationary factor of construction versus general inflation sometimes is an inverse relationship. So you have to have some flexibility built into these programs. That said, we did make a commitment to the Silo Infrastructure Committee to become the General Capital Improvements Committee that would supervise not only Silo, but the PEPL projects going forward to provide that transparency. And it's what called to my attention that I did not take this item to that committee, and that's a failure on my part. I think we should. We should take it to that group of people and explain what we're doing and why we're doing it and where we think it's fundable within the commitments that we have made. So I would like to propose tonight that the board accept an alternate motion to table further consideration on this to the next meeting to allow the opportunity for the district's infrastructure committee to look at this issue. I still believe this is an appropriate thing to do, and my recommendation won't change in that regard. but I think it is a fair consideration that we should take it to this citizens group and look at it. So I'm recommending a motion to table at this time.
Okay. So moved.
I second.
Second, any further discussion? Oh, thank you, Alan. I appreciate that.
Just before we actually vote on it, I mean, part of the discussion. Do we have, as a result of this agreement, do we have any ownership of the building? I'm looking long-term down the road, 100 years from now, the city vacates the building or whatever.
Sven, I believe it's a 50-year lease.
If my memory serves me, the lease is, the first term is 30 years with renewable 10-year periods. And I think there's like a 3-year notice clause if either party wants to get out of the agreement and figure out how to resolve what happens with the building versus the land. So these being the two parties to the lease would primarily be the first people discussing the future of the building should the city choose to vacate, or conversely, in that manner. So,
Thank you. If we didn't have that answer, I thought as we moved to the next meeting.
All those in favor of approving a tabling of this item, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate that, that discussion and that comment. And this is probably the first time that we've had an item that would go before this newly formed committee and the committee with newfound responsibilities. So good catch, and we will look forward to seeing that in the future. Next, I'm going to give it back to you, Dr. Benson, to talk about the 2015 legislative priorities.
Well, Director Anholtz covered everything that I would cover in his comments. I just have a few brief comments. On legislative matters, the legislative session is starting this week. First is school finance. Two principal items in school finance are, well, three. One, we need some state supplemental aid, also known as allowable growth, so that we can reward our excellent teachers. Our general fund is something in the low 80s% personnel costs. And as reported this evening, we have an outstanding faculty and an outstanding staff. And we have felt pinched over the years and have actually made reductions in staff to fund returning staff. We need to reverse that trend, and that's the first thing. Second thing is the teacher leadership fund that you heard about today was a $50 million commitment to reform by the current administration. They need to honor that commitment of reform and keep that $50 million as an individual price tag away from our general support. And I think Director Anholtz spoke to that. And the third thing you'll see in all of these documents is a real concerted effort, and I think Cedar Rapids has been a leader in pushing this across the state for increased funding for difficult children. Our teachers are outstanding, but they have a constant issue with students that disrupt. And they have called that to our attention through their appropriate mechanisms. And I want to say publicly today, we need help out of the legislature this year in the definitions and the amounts funded for dropout and at-risk prevention. All of those issues deal with funding. The next issue I would bring up is certainly our early reading initiative in the state. We have a third grade imperative coming around in the class of 17. And some consequences for students that are deemed insufficient readers. We need that funded. We need the Iowa Reading Program funded. We need the direction from the department to continue to clarify what is expected of local districts. And one of the asks from the AEAs is to bump up what they call literacy coaches, which would help us provide good staff development in that arena. So we don't want to take the ball off of this early reading. When you talk to the legislators, that's a critical piece. Something that was not mentioned is assessment. The committee on assessment of how we are going to conduct assessment in this state recommended that state of Iowa participate in the Smarter Balance assessment program. That runs contrary to current law, which stipulates that the Iowa Testing Service would be the provider of any test. So there's going to be some legislative work on assessment, and I believe that you're right, Director Anholt. I think we will get a new ESEA. There's coming out of a Congress that is now unified in its party affiliation, but have a Democratic administration to work with. So I think we need to pay particular attention to assessment as the legislature unfolds. Okay, and I guess my last issue is as you look at these issues, many of the organizations have a voluminous volume. I've seen ISCA's volumes of things, but we are trying to coalesce around key issues and not get distracted. The school start date discussion is one of those issues that can distract us, but we need to keep our eye on the ball on these big issues around the third grade reading initiative, the teacher leadership initiative, the mental health initiative, giving us our funds at hopefully 6% for ongoing continuous expenses, and our legislative examination of assessment. Those are all key issues this year, and I appreciate the board's willingness to cancel the meeting on the 26th so that several of us can attend to important legislative matters on that on those days. I believe the UEN is going to have a meeting on the 27th following the ISEA and ISEA meetings, which are going on concurrently. So there's going to be a lot of us on the Capitol early trying to make a difference. I'd be glad to discuss any other legislative matters that you have, but I wanted to take the time to call those to your attention.
We appreciate that focus, John.
So the legislators usually appreciate hearing direct information from our school district. So is there any initiative taking part right now in terms of putting some data together that we as board members or administrators or parents can use to share with our local legislators to make sure they understand exactly what these impacts have for our district? I mean, I have some general sense, but if we could just have some, talking points, I think that would be critical.
We'll work to put those together, and we have our second legislative discussion Saturday, a week from Saturday. Right. Yeah, a week from Saturday. What day would that be?
John, to respond a little bit to that, one, I would urge all board members and the general public to contact their legislators. I would strongly urge them to contact the governor. What he puts out in his budget in the coming weeks will have a key impact on the direction, particularly, again, the allowable growth. And some of the talking points are good, but I think if we can simply tell our own stories, the narratives are very important of what we experience, what we hear from parents, from school board, what as parents, what we've heard. I think what we saw tonight, the Roosevelt initiative, we can't do it without funding. that should be, we should have those kinds of things in every school. And why don't we? Because we're dealing with a funding level that's 37, it's as bad as it was 37 years ago. It's at the level it was 37 years ago in comparative. So we can't move into the kinds of things we want to do with improvement without the additional. So talking points are good, but I think we all have our stories. So just tell a story.
I think one of the things we really ought to really hammer, though, is our effective teaching that we're doing with the money that we've got. You know, you always ask for money, but we got to say, this is what we're doing in our district, and this is what's proven that's worked. The NEA brought that out, that, you know, the effective teachers graduate from college with a education degree doesn't mean you're going to be an effective teacher. So I think we got a prime example going on in our community that we need to really tell that story of what we are actually doing to change, you know. Because they want that's what they want to know. We spend this money, we give you that money. What are you really doing with that money to get results? And hopefully we'll see them here.
Yeah, that legislative meeting is on Saturday, the 17th, here.
Yep. All good comments, good discussion. We hope people are paying attention and will help to advocate on behalf of our students. Next, I'm going to turn this over to Jill for a moment of silence for a past employee.
Thank you, President Meisterling. In December, we did lose a bus driver, James Heitzman. Jim had been transporting students for the district since August of 2004. He was a soft-spoken, very kind, and well-respected man by both his peers and the students he transported. He was always up to the challenge and willing to take on the toughest of routes. His smile and calm demeanor will certainly be missed by the Transportation Department. I ask for a moment of silence for Jim.
Have a moment of silence for that family. Thank you. Thoughts and prayers go out to that family, and I'm sure the students on his bus routes will miss him. Thank you, Jill. There being no further business before this board, we stand adjourned.